guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, I'm going to do a pretty interesting article titled, Young Men Are Leaving Traditional Churches for Masculine Orthodox Christianity in Droves. And guys, this article I saw earlier today comes from the New York Post. And long story short, young men are definitely sick and tired of the direction things are going on multiple fronts. And it seems here that not only are more young men embracing religion, when there was a time period obviously they were flocking from it, but they're embracing more orthodox religion of a more masculine sense. In other words, young men are looking for more structure in their lives because guess what? They haven't had it in a heck of a long time. They see the mess that is out there, the decline in Western cultures, as I jokingly call Sodom and Gomorrah 2.0 over the years, and they need something. They don't get the structure in their schools. They don't get it in society. They don't get it from their families. Let's be honest. Half the families end up in divorces, and usually the boys go with their mothers. It's a big mess out there, as you guys are well aware. So they're going back to religion, and not to mention more masculine religion. Now, as a young guy that was raised in the church, a Lutheran church, I saw over the years how it became more feminized, if you will. And this article really talks about that, how, I don't need to elaborate and really get into detail what I mean about the feminization of it, but I'm sure many of you guys that were churchgoers then and now know what I'm talking about here. So that'll be an interesting one to go over here to show you how things are gone, because usually it's the youth, a lot of the youth, particularly men, that want to get away from, religion and things like that. It's just a natural rebelling type of thing. I was the same way when I was young. And interesting take on what's going on here, because things are a mess in this world and it's only getting worse, but I do have a glimmer of hope right now. And I think it's interesting that over the years being here on YouTube and all the other channels that are out there that kind of talk about the same things I do, clearly it's having an impact, because a lot of the young men out there are realizing it's a mess. I don't want a part of this crap. These things have gotten too far. Starts off, says here, Ben Christensen was raised Anglican. Church every Sunday, a religious school, and Christian camp every single summer. But Christensen, 27 years old, of Fairfax, Virginia, always found himself longing for a more traditional faith. His childhood sounds like mine. Every Sunday, church and Sunday school, the things in the summer, a religious school when I was up until I was 9 years old, all that. Oh yeah. He says, the hard thing about growing up in my church is that there was a lot of change even in my lifetime. He told the Post. I realized that there was no way to stop the change. That's what I saw growing up. He watched as traditions went by the wayside. The robbed choir was swapped out for a worship band. Lines were blurred on female ordination, and long-held stances on LGBT issues shifted. Sounds about right. He says all the stuff was basically fungible, which gave me a sense that the theological commitments are kind of fungible too, he said. So Christensen began exploring other denominations in college and landed on perhaps the most traditional of all, Orthodox Christianity. In 2022, at the age of 25, he converted. Well, I have to wonder what his family thought about that. Again, nothing gets people more riled up than politics and religion. He says, it seems to me like the mainstream denominations are hemorrhaging people. If you still are serious about being a Christian, now that there isn't really as much social status tied up in it, and you want something that has some heft to it, there's more of an awareness of orthodoxy than there used to be. Christensen, who works as a fundraiser for nonprofits, attends St. Mary's Orthodox Church in Falls Church, Virginia. Conversion means that he now must frequently attend confession, recite prescribed prayers, and endure extreme fasting, sometimes over 40-day stretches. Weekly services are also highly ritualized and regimented and can last up to 2 hours. Okay, so what you just heard there, all that is not for everyone. But you know what? It's his life. He can do what he wants. Now, I don't know what he means by the 40-day fasting thing. Does that mean like sunrise to sunset, or for a certain period of the day? Or I don't know exactly what that is. I don't like the idea of fasting, but that's just me personally. But the point is, there's a lot to this. But he wants this. He wants something that's obviously much more traditional. It goes back a long time. These young guys want structure. Again, we can debate back and forth on what is considered positive structure, but nevertheless, in this crazy world, they're looking for structure. But he says he takes great comfort in the 2,000-year history of each tradition.
There's a sense of structure, of continuality. It's the exact same. It hasn't changed. It's not going to change. I think it's things that have a very long history are very cool, to be honest with you. He says, I think there are a lot of Protestants who want a more traditional, grounded historical faith, and I think for young people especially, it makes sense because so much else in their lives is changing all the time. Exactly. And not changing for the better. Christensen's story isn't just anecdotal. As more and more Protestant churches unfurl pride flags, Black Lives Matter banners in front of their gates, young men are trending towards more traditional forms of worship. See? A survey of Orthodox churches around the country found that parishes saw a 78% increase in converts in 2022 compared with pre-pandemic levels in 2019. 78%! That's huge, guys. And while historically men and women converted in equal numbers, vastly more men have joined the church since 2020. There you go. Again, how can I say this? Everybody has their different ideas of structure, but, I'm convinced that as a kid, I was a rascal. I'm convinced a big part of my mom making sure my butt was on that pew every Sunday and at Sunday school and all the school when I was a kid and the things in the summertime and the things during winter after school. It was like keep my butt in line to give me some structure, because I was a rascal. I mean, I was a little hellraiser. And these young guys don't get that anywhere else in their lives. It says, Father Josiah Trenham has led St. Andrew's Orthodox Church in Riverside, California for nearly 3 decades, and he's noticed a swift jump in interest. It says the last 4 to 5 years have been a massive uptick. It's showing no sign of tapering off. If anything, it's increasing still. It's happening massively in untold numbers all over the country. So, I'm not surprised here at all. Trenham's church has 1,000 active participants, and although recent converts in his congregation have been split roughly evenly between men and women, he agrees that most Orthodox churches around the country are gaining far more men. Now, I read something that this guy they're talking about here, Father Josiah Trenham, I guess there's some, I want to say controversy around it, but there's some things, so, if maybe you guys have heard of this dude, I'm just reading this article here, okay? He says here, now listen to this, the feminization of non-Orthodox forms of Christianity in America have been in high gear for decades, he explained. Yes, it has. He points to the fact that the vast majority of attendees at most Christian churches are female, and many services are accordingly dominated by emotional songs, swaying, uplifted hands, and eyes closed in ecstasy. Yeah, I know a number of Catholics who liked it back in the day when everything was done in Latin. They thought that was very cool, a sense of the past and tradition. And they didn't like it when Mass was started being done in English or whatever was the dominant language wherever they are. And I remember as a kid in my church, it was always the organ. And the organ was awesome. I'm going to say that. But then they started bringing in guitars and other crap like that, and I know the older folks didn't like it. My grandma didn't like that. My grandma did not like any kind of change from the structure. And anyhow, he says, men are less comfortable in those settings, and they have voted with their feet, which is why they're minorities in these forms of worship. He says, our worship forms are very traditional and very masculine. He says, feminized worship is exactly what pushed Elijah Wee-Sit, a 17-year-old from Toronto, to explore Orthodoxy. He says, Christianity in North America has become extremely emotional. Right there, emotional. What is emotion? Being emotional? Feminine energy. Wee-Sit, who was raised evangelical, told the Post, going to evangelical worship services I found to be likely emotionally driven rock concerts with the lifting of the hands. They keep going back to the lifting of the hands, swaying in the pews and holding hands and, raising your hands like you do in the fucking YMCA. Yeah, I remember those. Singing the Lord's Prayer. It's like, what is this? The 12th grader says he was attracted to Orthodoxy because it is a more traditional and masculine. He especially appreciates the challenge and the discipline required to adhere to intense prayer and fasting. Again, I want to know about this fasting thing. What does that entail? Wish they would mention that. The thing that really appealed to me about Orthodoxy is how static static it was and how steadfast it is. He said, I generally do prefer something that is more traditional and really has the ancient feel to it. That's the common thing. The traditional, ancient feel to it. Some fucking order and structure here. And I love history, and I think the idea, I'm not Catholic, and I've been to some weddings and stuff like that, and funerals, and I've seen, some of that done in Latin. I thought it was cool. He says he's taking catechism classes and plans to officially convert in the new year, before he graduates high school. His father, an immigrant from the Philippines, initially had some reservations, but is supportive and drives him 25 minutes every Sunday so he can attend St. George Orthodox Church. I'm sure his old man has some reservations, but I'm glad at the end for this young guy here who wants to forge his own path is doing what he wants to do, and the dad's backing him up. He says modern Christianity has become very watered down. said, obviously he's from somewhere in Asia named We Sit. He says people go to church on Sunday, they sing a few songs, listen to an hour-long sermon that seems like a TED Talk, and then they go home and they just go on with their lives. Zachary Porchu, 36, is a catechist at Trenham's Church, meaning he helps teach incoming members about the faith. He says there are currently more than 100 people in classes waiting to be baptized, and there's always a little clique of young men among them. These are impressive numbers. In recent years, he's seen the internet as a major driver. He says internet orthodoxy is a recognized phenomenon. We get people who come in all the time who are like, I was on the internet arguing with people, and I discovered orthodoxy, and I found your church. Porcu, a theology professor who converted at age 24, understands why his faith is appealing to young men. He says orthodoxy is a call to adventure because it asks you to fast, to pray, to do all these physical things, to do this journey of self-improvement that I think can be contextualized into a very masculine, appealing dimension. Psychologist and author Jordan Peterson, Dr. Peterson, who has developed a massive following among young men, told the Post he's noticed a growing number of Gen Z boys, like Elijah, trending towards orthodoxy. In part, he theorizes because tradition makes it unquestionable. Yes, and in an era where everything's chaotic, and, again, these young men are the ones that are supposed to be the leaders. And they haven't been led very well, because who's leading them? We all know the answer to that. So they want some structure, they want some tradition, they want something just masculine. It says here, unlike a Protestant service, which is much more dependent on the preacher, you can't criticize an Orthodox service. It's like going to a ballet and saying, what's going on here? Well, that's a stupid question, Peterson told the Post. A ballet is the same thing as an Orthodox ceremony. It's ritualized, it's a dance, and it's not the words only. It's the words in the architecture, in the images, in the history, and you're participating in it. Next up, this is Bailey Mullins, 26, grew up Baptist in South Carolina. He began to have questions about religion in high school and college when he noticed many mainline denominations were getting co-opted by politics, fracturing into conservative and liberal branches, and getting distracted by cultural debates like LGBTQ issues. Sounds about right. A religion course with a professor who was an Orthodox Christian inspired him to attend his first liturgy at age 21. He converted 2 years later. He said, I wanted to be somewhere that was stable and that wasn't going to change, he told the Post. It felt very ancient, and that was not something I experienced elsewhere. Notice he said that? Stable. Wasn't going to change. Guys, it's interesting how men are wired. We like routine. We like stability. We like order. Women are the ones that want the change, want the chaos, want the this or that, I've told you guys before, I spent about 7 or 8 years as a personal trainer, a couple years in the gym, and the rest of the time working for myself. And overwhelmingly, 75-80% of my clients are women, because guys want to do what they want to do, and they want anybody to tell them how to do it, and they didn't want to spend their money. But women wanted a trainer to show them how to do things and all that. But as a trainer, and having mostly female clients, because, look, in the end of the day, it was a business and I need to make money, so I'm going to take the clients. Women get bored very easily. So with female clients as a personal trainer, I had to constantly mix things up. If, God forbid, I had anything that seemed like the same type of workout, 2 workouts in a row, they get bored. And I learned the hard way early on with that. Men, we can do the same freaking workout, hitting the bench press, the squats, the shoulder presses, all the deadlifts, that type of thing, the power exercise, the strength things. They were cool with that. Routine, routine, routine. You try doing the same thing with women. Oh, no, no, no. So it's not surprising me talking about here, men want stability, order, tradition, routine, Anyhow, Mullins, a graphic designer, now lives in Alexandria, Tennessee. He says more young men are finding orthodoxy because the religion is, in itself, masculine. Well, they're tired of a pussified society we have out there. One might say orthodoxy itself is more masculine, especially when compared to the more feminized form of Christianity that exists today, where the emphasis is on the emotional experience, feeling good, and appealing to the self, he said. I got no problem with feeling good, because a lot of times we feel like shit, but there's a degree to this. And there's also the definition of feeling good. I think for a lot of guys, feeling good is tradition, stability, order, that type of thing, structure. He says, orthodoxy isn't about us, it's about God. And I think young people today can intuitively sense that out. We know when we're being pandered to. He attends St. Peter's Orthodox Church, which he says is mostly filled with young converts like him, who also want to feel a sense of stability in a chaotic world. Right there, stability in a chaotic world. Well, it's been pretty effing chaotic for a while, guys. I'm sure you all agree. I think that's probably what brought you to my channel or other channels like that. And it wraps up and says here, everything is changing. Protestant churches are changing. The Catholic Church is changing. The culture is changing. The government is changing. People want something that is historic and not going to change. They want something that's stable and sound and is not built on sand. I like the little reference, not built on sand there. So anyway, guys, there you go. Now, the comment section is very interesting. I wrote some comments down here. The comment section is full of people wholeheartedly agreeing with all this. And mostly people are talking in the comment section. I learned some things today about the history of the Orthodox Church, Eastern Orthodox Church, and then the Catholic Church, and how they eventually broke up and all that type of thing. Things I either have forgotten about over the years. But the point is, the main thing is everybody's agreeing with this. Now, a few comments here. One guy says here, the Orthodox churches are more traditional and for many more impressive with the icons and the rituals than their regular church. It shows that many humans desire the belief in a higher power and less talk about bending to the popular culture, ding, 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 which has become a complete cesspit. Thank you. It's not just young men, and it's not just Orthodox churches. There's a resurgence in many people for faith and purpose since they aren't truly happy with the things that are pushed on them for fulfillment. It's not surprising the world's changing and going back to basics in so many ways. Yeah, right there. People are realizing they're not happy. I mean, I've seen articles talking about how so many young people have major depression and being treated for depression. So guess what? All this stuff that is pushed on people that they gotta have, and the social media and the attention and this or that. Well, people are probably feeling more lonely than ever because it's interesting. I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, has teenage kids, good kids, and he said, these kids just can't hold a freaking conversation with anybody outside like the kids because they're so conditioned to be yapping on their phone, texting, messaging, commenting, and stuff like that. And I think in a way they're feeling more alone. Another comment here. This guy says, listen to this, as a gym rat, sharing the experience spaces with modern feminist women is unbearable. Constant filming, endless accusations of harassment while wearing basically bra and panties, complemented with caterpillar eyelashes, 99% of men would prefer single-sex gyms. Same as it is for faith spaces. An unbearable feminist emotionalism, one cannot get through Sunday school's topic without a woman monopolizing everyone's time by retelling her story every Sunday. 99% of men would prefer focusing on the topic at hand. Same for political life. 99% of men would prefer results-oriented policies. Note to self, need to check that Orthodox church in town. Well, the guy's hitting the nail on the head. Another one. This guy says here, I attend a pretty conservative Catholic church, and the influx of young men and women in attendance is amazing. I think that finally young people are getting sick of all life's drama and want to get back to the basic as far as religion goes. Young people sick of life's drama. Well, what do we have in this world now? Drama, drama, drama. I mean, there was always drama. Don't get me wrong. But social media took that to a whole new level. My neighbor, who attends a conservative synagogue, says the same thing. They haven't seen anything like it in years. Is there actually hope? I think there's hope. And I hope that my channel, hope that my channel and other channels like mine that do this has helped a little bit in some way. Open some eyes, have people listen, and see that, guess what? It's a mess out there. And we can go back and forth on the causes of the mess and who causes the mess. And I think a lot of you guys know about that, but I'm not going to get into that. But the bottom line is, it seems like young guys are waking up, clearly not happy. They're not getting, again, what they need in their families because half the families are divorced. Kids live in single-parent households. They don't get that structure. Parents aren't being parents anymore. How many times have you been out in public and seen like little kids and they're screwing around? They're kids, so they're going to screw around, but the parents aren't even paying attention. The parents are on their damn phones. You see mom there holding up the phone, taking her 97th selfie of the day, taking the picture. Dad's screwing around the phone, not paying attention to the kids. The kids want some structure. They want some support, And there was a time period that, religion was a more prominent part of people's lives. And again, people can have their issues with religion. There's been some bad apples, obviously, in varying religions and churches and all that. You know what I'm talking about here, and you can't blame people for backing away, but it's certainly not all like that, and it did bring a lot of meaningful things to people's lives. So it'll be interesting to see the direction how this goes. But I thought I got uncovering this because, again, this is a men-oriented channel. I got my 4% of women out there that are with us here, but still, it's a men's channel, and it's interesting to see this. So all the young guys out there, any of you young guys out there that have recently done something like this, I'd like to hear about that. Any of you guys have gone back, have seen the mess that there is, and you've gone back to your religion, or embraced it more after maybe taking a break for a while for whatever your reasons, or maybe yourself are looking for a more Orthodox religion because you certainly don't like the direction things have gone, because I've witnessed this in the church I was in when I was a kid. I haven't been there in a very long time. I'd like to hear about that. All right, guys, that's it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about that. I just said that. And guys, you got a good article that you want me to cover or a personal story, definitely send it my way. strongsuccessfulmale@gmail.com. And if indeed it does work, I'll definitely cover it at some point. And be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. I'll catch you next time.